Good evening, everyone. I'm Riley King, and welcome to the Riley King Newscast, right here on the Riley King Network. We have a lot of news to get to this evening, so let's begin. First up, we begin with breaking news. Lindusky testifies he didn't think President asked me to do anything illegal. Former Trump campaign manager, current Windham resident, gives testimony. Corey Lindusky is confirming that President Donald Trump asked him to urge Jeff Sessions to reverse himself and oversee the Russia investigation. Lindusky never delivered that message, but he told the House Judiciary Committee that Trump didn't ask him to break the law. And let's listen into that testimony still happening right now. Let's listen in.
The president asking you to deliver a message.
I didn't know I could get immunity from a media outlet.
I want to clarify the date of that interview is February 22nd, 2019, just to be clear. The date is February 22nd, as I originally stated, 2019. Sir, let me ask you a question.
What was the inaccuracy earlier? Because I missed that.
Sir, let me ask you, did you say that because you wanted to protect the president?
Not to the best of my recollection.
Sir, did you deny it because you wanted to protect yourself?
Not to the best of my recollection, Mr. Burke.
Why did you lie on national television, sir, about the president giving you a message to the Attorney General about the special counsel's investigation?
Okay, that is a little bit of the hearing. If you want to watch more of that, we will have a link for you on the Riley King Network Facebook page. Top GOP strategists organize Super PAC to recruit Corey Lindusky to run for U.S. Senate. Stand with Corey filed with FEC, handed by Banu and Obsta and Barnader. As prospective U.S. Senate candidate Corey Lindusky testified before the U.S. House Judiciary Committee on Tuesday, a super PAC aimed at convincing him to run for the New Hampshire seat was formally organized and filed with the Federal Election Commission. Arrest warrant issued for Dover restaurant owner in native country of Libyan. Friends say Ammar Fakhari detained during trip home. Lebanese traditional officials said a judge has issued an arrest warrant for a Lebanese American who confessed he worked for Israel during its occupation of Lebanon for nearly 2 decades. The officials said acting military investigative judge on Tuesday postponed the questioning of Ammar Fakhari at the military court pending permission from Lebanon's Bar Association for an American lawyer who can to attend the questioning. The officials spoke on conditions of anonymity in line with regulations. Frank Airy, who owns a restaurant in Dover, New Hampshire, was detained after returning to his native Lebanon from the U.S. earlier this month. Frank Airy had worked as a senior warden at the Kamar prison in southern Lebanon that was run by the Israel-backed militant news articles in his home country tabbed him as the Butcher of Kahar. Former inmates of the prison protested outside the courthouse Tuesday. One sign in Arabic could be translated to "Read who listens to the American administration and the Israel enemy. He is an agent." Francoeur owns the Little Lebanon to-go restaurant. A sign on the restaurant's door Monday said the family was taking its first vacation in 15 years and would reopen September 25th. Roberts and Francoeur's wife is afraid for her safety and has not left the family home in Lebanon. Friends of Francoeur said his dream was to establish a good life for his family and become a citizen of the United States. Lebanon and Israel have been officially at war since Israel's creation in 1948. One rescued from second floor of burning building in Manchester. First floor residents say she saw flames coming from bedroom. Let's take a listen to that video from WMUR News 9, Ray Brewer.
Ew! This water smells.
Smelly water is ew. It can be more serious than just the smell. At Capital Clean Water Center, we get the ew out of the water and make it.
That's correct, Sean. Right now they're in the process of boarding up this building. Now, the fire was reported around 8:15 this morning. One woman saying that it spread so quickly that it was literally a minute and her whole first floor apartment was engulfed in flames.
I woke up and there were flames coming out of the back bedroom.
That's how Tuesday morning began for Anya Maynard in her Maple Street apartment.
It was flames, like the whole doorway was lit up. Couldn't see.
Maynard woke up her husband and in the course of fleeing the first floor apartment alerted the upstairs neighbors.
We heard the woman that was staying downstairs haul a fire and saw the smoke, so we just grabbed things and ran.
But Jill Diebel was on the third floor and says the building was filling with smoke.
My thought was to open the window and get some air.
Firefighters were quickly on the scene and made their way up through a back staircase to rescue Diebel and her pet rats.
When I saw the firefighters there, I was like, oh, okay, this will be okay. Because I'm not that high up.
The fire chief says they knew they had to knock the fire down quickly, as it doesn't take long for the fire to spread in these older buildings. And the conditions were getting worse by the minute.
It was very hot. There was heavy fire on the first floor and there was smoke throughout the rest of the building.
But firefighters were able to contain the fire quickly, although the building did suffer significant smoke and water damage. The chief says there were a total of 8 apartments in the building with 10 people living there. People who, like Anya Maynard, are wondering what they'll do next.
Everything I own gone.
The fire chief says they believe the fire started on the first floor, and while it's still under investigation, at this point there's nothing suspicious. As for the residents, the Red Cross is helping them find a place to stay. Reporting live in Manchester, Ray Brewer, WMUR News 9.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Traffic backed up on I-93 South after crash involving 2 tractor trailers. No word on any injuries. A crash Tuesday morning on Interstate 93 South just before exit 2 in Salem caused significant backups into Windham. 2 tractor trailers were involved in the crash. There was no word on any injuries. Drivers were encouraged to seek alternate routes if possible. Bath salt now listed as controlled substance in New Hampshire. Police say rule change lets them deal with growing problem. Let's take a listen to the video from WMUR News 9, Kristen Carosa.
This group of law enforcement stood together in Claremont today to make the announcement that certain types of illegal drugs known as bath salts containing alpha PHP are now controlled substances in New Hampshire.
Nearly every day we're dealing with some sort of either social issue or some sort of issue that's created has an underlying current of bath salts.
Claremont Police Chief Mark Chase says he started seeing an uptick in the amount of people suffering from different types of illnesses back in 2016. Police traced it back to the use of bath salts, and at the time, they were limited to what they could do until now.
There's now a risk because for the last 4 or 5 years, there's been zero risk if you're buying or purchasing or have bath salts in your pocket.
Police say ingesting bath salts can lead to bizarre behavior like paranoia and extreme strength. They say the highs are similar to using meth, cocaine, and ecstasy.
The erratic behavior oftentimes is criminal behavior. The domestic violence behavior oftentimes is criminal behavior.
Sullivan County Attorney Mark Hathaway says if people are caught with the drug, they could face long prison sentences and fines, something law enforcement says is necessary.
This drug is the most disruptive force in our community.
Law enforcement tells us they hope by making bath salts a controlled drug, they hope the people that have been impacted by this get the help that they need. Reporting in Claremont, Kristen Carosa, WMUR News 9.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Legendary journalist Cokie Roberts dies at age 75. Let's take a look at this video. Okay, and there you go on that video. And our thoughts and prayers go to her family, friends, and co-workers. And now let's take a look at that U.S. stock market and see how your U.S. stock market closed for this Tuesday evening. And here's a look at that U.S. stock market for all of you for this Tuesday evening. Your Dow Jones Industrial Average closed in the green and went up. Your Nasdaq closed in the green and went up. S&P 500 closed in the green and went up. Gold closed in the red and went down. Oil closed in the red and went down. U.S. 10-year closed flat. Euro/USD closed in the green and went up. And VIX closed in the red and went down. look at your stock market and how they closed this Tuesday evening. Stocks rise slightly ahead of the Fed's decision on interest rates. Stocks rose slightly on Tuesday, but gains were crimped as the Federal Reserve kicked off a two-day monetary policy meeting. Trump certainly looking like Iran behind Saudi Arabia attack, ABC News. Let's take a listen to the video from ABC News.
The latest on those tensions between the U.S. and Iran after saying the U.S. was locked and loaded, ready to retaliate over that attack on key oil facilities in Saudi Arabia. President Trump now appears to be taking a different stance, saying he wants to avoid war. Chief Global Affairs correspondent Martha Raddatz has the latest there in Washington. Good morning, Martha.
Good morning, Robin. The Secretary of State is squarely pointing the finger at Iran for the attacks, and this morning a senior official telling ABC that a nearly intact cruise missile and drone were found, which could be important evidence, but the president seems in no hurry to definitively pin the blame on Iran or take any retaliatory action. The attack was brazen and highly sophisticated, with more than 20 explosive-laden drones and nearly a dozen cruise missiles slamming into the oil facilities in Saudi Arabia, leaving the world's largest refinery smoldering. But after a weekend of strong words and warnings, President Trump now saying he suspects Iran was behind the attacks, but telling our John Carl he wants to be certain.
We're having some very strong studies done, but it's certainly looking that way at this moment, and we'll let you know. As soon as we find out definitively, we'll let you know, but it does look that way.
A senior administration official telling ABC News there is an unclassified statement ready to be released showing no doubt Iran carried out the strikes from its own soil, including information that the attacks all came from the north. But the president was restrained in his comments on Monday.
I don't want war with anybody. I'm somebody that would like not to have war.
In June, after the U.S. accused Iran of shooting down one of our drones, the U.S. military was close to being locked and loaded for a retaliatory strike, only to have the president shut it down because he said he was worried about loss of life. And there were those oil tankers the U.S. said were struck by Iran as well. So what is his message to Iran?
I think I'll have a stronger message, or maybe no message at all, when we get the final results of what we're looking at. But right now it's too soon to say. There's plenty of time. You know, there's no rush.
This morning, Iran is saying there is no chance that Iran's president will meet with President Trump next week at the UN. And while the administration is figuring out how to respond to these attacks, experts are saying that within weeks, gas prices could rise 10 to 25 cents a gallon. Michael?
All right, Martha, the world is watching. Thank you so much for that.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. And that is it for this evening edition of the Riley King Newscast right here on the Riley King Network. I hope you all have a great rest of your evening, and I'll see you back here tomorrow for another newscast. And I'll have a news report coming up in a little bit. Good night and bye.